everyone, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about 2019's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and its Sony 4K Blu-ray that came out that very same year. So Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the 9th film from Quentin Tarantino. He wrote and directed this one, and it's the first film he actually made without the Weinsteins. He left them, and there was a bidding war for this film, and eventually Columbia Pictures won that. Columbia is under the Sony brand, and he got full creative control for this film. And this film stars Margot Robbie, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Brad Pitt, and many other actors who have worked with Tarantino in the past and were working with Tarantino for the first time. So this is a huge ensemble cast, but our lead characters are played by Leonardo DiCaprio, who plays Rick Dalton, a kind of down on his luck actor. He's kind of fading away. He was a big-time actor in the 1950s. He played J.K. Hill on Bounty Law, and Cliff Booth, played by Brad Pitt in this movie, was his stunt double. And this review, guys, is going to be full-fledged spoilers because I want to talk a little bit about the Cliff Booth character and what exactly happened to him and the backstory of his character. It was that was kind of revealed in novelization. That was kind of left more ambiguous in the actual film. So this is going to be a spoiler review, guys. So if you want to skip ahead to the 4K Blu-ray review, you can do that right now. So Cliff Booth actually has a pretty dark backstory. He's kind of known throughout Hollywood for killing his wife. It was never proven. He kind of got away with it, so it's really up in the air. But in the novelization for this book, it is revealed that Cliff Booth did kill his wife, and he felt immediately guilty about it. But in the movie, it's actually left very ambiguous. That way we don't turn totally against Cliff Booth. Although it's pretty obvious, in my opinion, that he did kill his wife. You know, the guy is a war hero. I love that Leonardo DiCaprio brings that up. That's his last line of defense with Kurt Russell, who's also in this movie. Not only does he play a character in this film, Kurt Russell, but he also does the narration, which works perfectly in this film. It's not overused. It's not abused. And Kurt Russell just has one of those iconic voices, so it works so well. It's really funny. In one scene, Leonardo DiCaprio's trying to get him on the set with him. He's on the Green Hornet, actually, which is really funny because Bruce Lee pops up in this movie, which is another thing that kind of caused controversy at the time, is that Bruce Lee pops up in this movie, and they kind of make him look a little bit weak. I know that the Lee family was a little bit upset about that, and people who watched this movie and who are huge Bruce Lee fans were upset about this, and I just want to lay it out for you guys. So in this sequence, Cliff Booth does get the job. He is going to be one of Rick's stunt doubles. Bruce Lee comes on set, and Cliff Booth, you know, he's a cocky motherfucker. He was in the war. He was trained really well in hand-to-hand combat, and he's like, you know what? You're beating up on all these stunt doubles. Why don't you try and beat up on me? They get in a fight, a little bit of a scuffle. At one point, Cliff throws Bruce Lee into the car and just wrecks the car. And now this sequence, I know a lot of people are like, oh, that would never happen. Well, it didn't happen. This is a fantasy film. A lot of these characters are having fantasies throughout this film, but the movie itself is a full-fledged fantasy. Margot Robbie plays Sharon Tate in this movie. Sharon Tate ended up passing away in the Manson murders. She was really married to Roman Polanski, the guy who made Rosemary's Baby and Chinatown. And, you know, has some controversies himself. You can look into that if you'd like. But Sharon Tate in this movie, she doesn't get murdered by the Manson family. We're actually seeing her on the rise throughout this entire film, and she really represents that Hollywood dream, what people want to become in Hollywood. And I know people said that this is another character that could have been cut out of the film, but no, she really is one of the cornerstones of this film. We have to see that hope of Hollywood, of somebody wanting to become a star on the rise, basically juxtaposed with Leonardo DiCaprio's Rick Dalton, who is a star on the decline.
It's official, old buddy. Well, has been.
What are you talking about? What did that guy tell you?
Told me the goddamn truth is what he told me.
You know, stars go up, they go down. That's just how it works. Rick Dalton's on the decline while Sharon Tate's on the uprise. She's going up. She's got her first big break really in Hollywood. She's really proud of herself. I love that scene where she goes and sees herself in the movie. And then this is, again, where I'm talking about how this movie is a fantasy. Not only is she having a fantasy while watching this movie, you know, we see her training with Bruce Lee, and she's wearing the same clothes that she's wearing in the film, which is a real hint that she's fantasizing about it. And then when she does do that kick in the movie and knocks the person down, the whole crowd cheers. We never saw the crowd cheering or laughing anytime before that, but she sees and hears them laughing, and that's to let us know that, you know what, she's fantasizing about this. And now to circle back to Cliff Booth and Bruce Lee, that's what I'm talking about when I say, you know what, when he threw Bruce Lee into the car, that didn't happen. He's thinking back on this moment, and he's trying to justify it to himself. Well, I did kick Bruce Lee's ass, so of course they're not going to want me back. That's probably not what happened at all. It's more than likely something that he did, because as much as we love Cliff Booth in this movie, he is a little bit of an asshole. You know, Rick Dalton also a little bit of an asshole. But Rick Dalton, we really care about him. And Leonardo DiCaprio, he kind of got ripped off for this movie. A lot of people always just remember Brad Pitt for it. Brad Pitt actually won the Academy Award for it.
And the Oscar goes to Brad Pitt. Once upon a time.
Well deserved. He finally got his Academy Award. Everybody, just like all the time in a lot of other movies that feature Leonardo DiCaprio, just like Django Unchained, we overlooked the fantastic performance. For me, I think the standout performance, as much as I love Margot Robbie and Cliff Booth played by Brad Pitt, I still think Rick Dalton played by Leonardo DiCaprio is the standout performance. Someone who's just trying to keep himself in check. He knows that his star is in the decline. He doesn't want to go make Italian films in Italy, make spaghetti westerns, which is another great homage. You know that Quentin Tarantino loves spaghetti westerns. He even made a couple himself. So you know that he loves them, and trying to get him to go over there and do it, he doesn't want to. He's like, I'm failing. It's over for me, buddy. I love that scene as well. And then, of course, when he finally does get on the set, playing a heavy on a western show, he's kind of acting against Tim Lee Oliphant. And this scene is one of my favorite scenes in the movie just throughout. First of all, not only do you get wrapped up in everything that's going on this show, that's just how well acted it is, but you also are caring about the Rick Dalton actor. That's why when he fumbles his lines at one point, he goes into his trailer and he just freaks out. This is the best and funniest scene in the movie, and it's just Leonardo DiCaprio just acting against himself.
Let me tell you something. You don't get these lines right, I'm gonna blow your fucking brains out tonight.
How upset he is with himself, talking about how you had to have 8 whiskey sours, you couldn't just stop at 3 or 4 because you're a goddamn alcoholic. And then he's like, I'm done drinking. And then he goes to take a drink again, throws it out of the trailer. Just absolutely love that scene. And then it builds up again to this great scene with a child actor that she goes up to him, tells him how great of an actor he is. That's the best acting she's ever seen.
That was the best acting I've ever seen in my whole life.
And he respects her because she takes acting so seriously. Apparently, this character was kind of based on the child actor of Jodie Foster, who apparently just had it from the very beginning. She's actually in the upcoming season of True Detective, so Jodie Foster's still a great actress. So this whole movie is just exploring this golden era of Hollywood, the change in Hollywood. Just coming out of the 1960s, Tarantino, he was there when this was all going on. He also tried to bring in actors who were also there, like Kurt Russell and Bruce Dern, who both worked with him in the past, most recently on The Hateful Eight. So they wanted to make sure everything was accurate for the era. The music, I love the music. I didn't realize how much of the music I actually had on my iPhone through Apple Music until I rewatched this movie. I was like, wow, this soundtrack really did make an influence on me. I know a lot of people said that there was a lot of filler with the driving scenes with Brad Pitt. Later in the movie with Tex, who's played by Austin Butler in this movie, by the way. I know a lot of people said that those scenes could have been cut out, but no, I love those scenes. How we get Robert Richardson and Quentin Tarantino on a crane following them around. Robert Richardson, one of my favorite cinematographers. This is the guy who shot Casino. He's been working with Quentin Tarantino since Kill Bill. I think they missed one movie in between. It might have been Death Proof, I'm pretty sure, actually. Anyway, Robert Richardson just knows how to shoot a movie. This movie was shot with 35mm film. They also used some 16mm, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. So those scenes of Brad Pitt just driving back to his trailer where he gets to meet the best character in this movie, Brandy. Brandy the dog is fantastic. Love her. If you're a dog lover, you have to love this movie just because look at that relationship between the two of them, and she's loyal as hell. She will protect Cliff until there's a gun. Once a gun comes out, she's scared as hell, but I just love that character as well. But just the way this movie shot, scored, everything. It's a Quentin Tarantino film. It is one of Quentin Tarantino's best films. Again, kind of building up to the conclusion of this movie, we get those murders, that big time action sequence at the end of this movie with the flamethrower, which we kind of hinted at earlier in the movie was going to happen. You kind of knew it was coming. And we get this big violent ending. Of course, now the Manson family, who are supposed to murder the Tates, which live next door to Rick Dalton, well, they picked the wrong house, and Cliff Booth, Brandy, and then, of course, Rick Dalton, they end up murdering the shit out of these people. And then, you know what? We're going to have a twist of fate. Rick Dalton now living next door to Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate. This might be his in to finally get back on the right track in Hollywood. And again, that just proves to you that this is a fantasy film, and how this is a fantasy for a falling actor, for an actor on the rise, and maybe we can have that big time happy ending. So when you watch this movie, if there's certain things that just kind of seem strange and out of place, I believe because a lot of this stuff takes place in fantasy land. This is just Tarantino's love letter. Somebody even described it as his Roma, a love letter to his childhood and the movies that he loves. We know that Quentin Tarantino loves movies, and that's why I think he's my favorite director of all time, because you could just see that he's wearing all of his inspirations on his sleeve. And I love the movies that he loves, so Tarantino's movies always work for me, and this one is just so polished and beautiful. The homages to so many great films in the past. You just love this movie. If you're a film fan, you absolutely love this movie. If by chance you haven't seen it and I just spoiled the hell out of it for you, I'm sorry about that, but still, I recommend checking this one out, even if you can't watch it on this 4K Blu-ray that we're going to talk about right now. Well, here it is. This is the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood 4K Steelbook. I actually got this originally. It's had a couple reprints since it came out. The 4K Blu-ray came out in 2019. It originally had a slipcover version as well. And when you come inside this bad boy, which, by the way, let me just show you the exterior. I love the exterior. You guys know I like neon lights. Of course, the neon lights in old Hollywood, that's what they were going for with this. So we get our three main characters on the front, but then we get the most important character in the film, Brandy, on the back. She deserves her own spot. You come inside, it's a 2-disc set, one 4K Blu-ray and one Blu-ray. So your 4K Blu-ray is right there. I like how they made it look like film as well. One thing about Quentin Tarantino is he loves to shoot his movies still on film. That's why Robert Richardson said he loves to work with him. Robert Richardson has shot movies digitally as well, but Tarantino insists on shooting on film. They shot on 35mm, used some 16mm. They actually were going to use 70mm like they did on The Hateful Eight, but unfortunately they wouldn't have been able to do as many zooms as they wanted to, so they ended up just using 35mm and 16mm. They even were going to originally use some Super 8. Again, decided against that. So it's just 35mm and 16mm. And you know what? That all just shows so well on the 4K Blu-ray and the Blu-ray. So the Blu-ray that is packed in here is going to have it's going to have different audio options, but that's going to include most of your extras. There are some deleted scenes and actually some fake commercials that are on the 4K Blu-ray. And it's weird, the 4K Blu-ray and the Blu-ray, they use different menu systems. And the 4K Blu-ray, it's cool. I liked what they were going for, but I just don't think the tech worked as well. And that menu system is very, very clunky, where there's just too many pages and you're moving around. But the extras, those deleted scenes, or you know, just those scenes that would have been added into the movie, just kind of extended scenes like a Red Apple cigarettes commercial, all that stuff is on the 4K Blu-ray. Really appreciated that. But all the featurettes, which are some really good, about 5 to 10 minute featurettes, are on the Blu-ray. Enjoyed every single one of those. Talking with everybody who was involved in making the film, how they got the whole city together for this. They actually shut down 4 blocks on Hollywood Boulevard, dressed this up to make it look like 1969. A lot of it from pictures and Quentin Tarantino's memory of the city. You know, the cars, the clothes, every attention to detail. They explore it all in the featurettes. Absolutely love those. You know, the Blu-ray does have a DTS HD 5.1, whereas the 4K Blu-ray actually has a DTS HD 7.1. Very rarely used, but the audio track is phenomenal on this one. I don't even think it needed a Dolby Atmos track. That's how good it is. It's mixed so well. Again, it's a Quentin Tarantino film, so there is plenty of music. And just like in Reservoir Dogs, a lot of the music is actually coming from the radio. That was a big deal in 1960s Hollywood, is AM radio in Los Angeles. So Tarantino wanted to pay attention to those little details, the music they were playing at the time. Apparently on the marquee when you're driving down Hollywood Boulevard, the films that are playing on those marquees were actually accurate to the time, which is pretty damn awesome. Also the same thing with the music and radio stations, accurate of the time. That's that attention to detail that I absolutely love. You know, Tarantino doesn't miss that stuff. If you guys watched Saltburn pretty recently and you love Saltburn, you know what? That movie takes place in 2006 and they're watching Superbad in that movie. Superbad came out in 2007. That stuff always takes me right out of a movie, and Tarantino never misses those little details, and they just paid attention to it so well in this 4K Blu-ray. And then if you were to compare the Blu-ray and the 4K, not only is the audio phenomenal on both of them, yes, the audio on the 4K Blu-ray is better because, you know, a little bit more work with the channels, and you do actually hear that. You actually can hear the extra work from those 2 extra channels on there. Really impressive. I would have liked a little bit more bass, if I'm being honest with you guys, but other than that, it is a great audio track, mainly on the 4K Blu-ray. You also get some other audio tracks in other languages, which I also always appreciate. And it's a Sony 4K and a Sony Blu-ray, so when we get to the visuals, I was actually surprised it's only HDR10, but honestly, it doesn't need more than that. The Blu-ray itself, the visuals are stunning. If this just came to Blu-ray, I would say this is one of the best Blu-rays ever. So when you go from Blu-ray to 4K Blu-ray, you know, it's not the biggest jump I've ever seen. In fact, it's actually probably the most limited jumps I've ever seen. You know, even though we're adding HDR over it, it's not adding too much to it. If anything, it's just kind of helping the film grain adjust a little bit better. Some colors are a little bit brighter. It is, of course, getting a resolution bump, and you know, the skins might look a little bit more natural, but honestly, hitting the deep blacks and having those vivid and dynamic colors, the Blu-ray handles all that stuff very, very well. And it's a very colorful movie, so you would hope it would, and it really does. So the Blu-ray that's packed in here is phenomenal as well. The 4K Blu-ray is only really slightly better. Honestly, there's a lot of grain throughout this movie, but it's the perfect amount of grain. At points, it can be slightly noticeable and overwhelming, but I mean very slightly, and only in certain times while watching this film, and that's because of the way they shot the movie. It really has nothing to do with the actual way they transfer the disc. Sony did a phenomenal job on this 4K Blu-ray. I don't have too many complaints when it comes to the visuals, other than the fact that it's just not the best 4K Blu-ray I've ever seen. It's still a solid 4K Blu-ray. It looks great. It sounds great. The extras are amazing. The packaging, if you can get this 4K Steelbook, it's one of my favorites that I actually have in my collection. It is amazing. The regular slipcover version, I didn't get that, but I do enjoy the artwork on that one as well. You really get all the bells and whistles for a studio release. You know, obviously it's a regular studio release, so we don't get like a really great making of documentary. The featurettes are about 5 to 10 minutes long, but either way or they're fantastic. So if I was going to rate this 4K Blu-ray at a score of 1 to 10, I would still give this 4K Blu-ray a really solid 9.5 out of 10. If you can get this 4K Steelbook on another reprint, I can highly recommend it. You won't be paying probably full price. It'll probably be in that $20 to $25 range, which might sound a little bit pricey, but I still think that this movie has transferred so well. It's a fantastic film and you get so much in here. It is still worth that price. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here with me on another episode of Let's Talk. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn notifications on, and share this video. Or you can even join our channel memberships. We have a Friends of the Tier channel. Then we also have a Producers tier where you guys will find guys like Jason Martin, Mr. Smelly Potato, John Doe Juggalo, and Nocturnal. Or you can even become a channel director like Frank Rodriguez and have your choice review each and every single month. Or you can even have access to a private chat with me if you would like to take advantage of that. Plus many, many, many more perks. But if you got no money to throw our way, don't you guys worry about it. The best way to keep supporting this channel is just by telling everybody about it. Get out in those streets, maybe on Hollywood Boulevard, and tell all your friends about us. And then after you're done doing all that, we'll be seeing you around.